Hi, and here's my audience.
Hey, I thought we were already okay.
They're very kind to take time out of their day for my speech. So thank you. Okay, so there's a lot of controversy these days about what we're teaching our children in school as curriculum. Some people think that we should be teaching evolution. Some people think we should be teaching creation. I have my own thoughts on the subject, but I think more importantly, we need to be teaching our children about the power of their own thoughts. From the very beginning, it should be part of the curriculum to enforce the idea that the way we think will determine the direction that we go. Our children need to understand, they need to know that every thought they think, every word they speak is creating their own future. People have been conditioned to think the way that they do. We've all been conditioned to think the way that we think. It's a language that we've been taught, and it becomes a habit. The way we think becomes a habit. People that are happy, they're in the habit to be happy. So we need to pay attention to the thoughts that we think, the words that we choose. In war-torn areas, people are being conditioned to hate. Mahatma Gandhi said, "A man is but a product of his thoughts. As he thinks, he becomes." Do you know in our great nation, 1.2 million students are dropping out of school, high school, every year. One student every 26 seconds. 7,000 students a day are dropping out of high school.
Good.
And then what happens is they can't get a job because they don't have a high school diploma, so they get into trouble. 85% of our nation's incarcerated population are high school dropouts. So many possibilities sitting in prison because of the way that they were conditioned to think. And yeah, it's a choice. They made their bed. And we all know that life isn't fair. Not everyone has the luxury of a family support. Some kids, but the bottom line is that we've all been conditioned in some form or another to think the way that we think. So we need to pay attention, take control of our own thoughts. Not every student fits into the school system, and some people fall through the cracks. There's many variables, a lot of reasons why kids drop out of school, but it's not usually because they weren't smart enough. They might have been conditioned to believe they weren't smart enough. They might have been conditioned to think they weren't good enough. But what would happen if we taught inspiration as part of the curriculum in school? What if we had 101? What if we had Power of Giving 101, Walking in Gratitude 101, where kids were required to write papers about how they could make a difference? What if they were required to start a giving bank where they had to deposit goodwill into it every single day? Or they kept a record of random acts of kindness, what we can do to help our fellow person? What if they were taught that from the very beginning? And it seems quite obvious to me, the way that we think will determine the direction we go. What if we taught our children from the very beginning that every thought they think, every word they speak is dependent on what their future is, that their whole life and their future depends on the way that they think. And then we have phrases that are going around that we've all grown up with. He makes me happy. She makes me sad. And all that does is to encourage us to blame everyone else for our own feelings. We've been conditioned to blame other people for the way that we're feeling. And the reality is that we are all in charge of our own feelings. It's important that we take control of our own thoughts. And that's what we should be teaching in school as part of the curriculum. Pablo Picasso said, "My mother always told me if I wanted to be a soldier, I would be the general. If I wanted to be a priest, I would be the pope. But instead, I just wanted to be a painter and wound up being myself." Signed, Pablo Picasso. It's amazing what happens when people are taught to believe in themselves. We should be teaching our children to think outside of the box, to explore, discover, and take control of their own thoughts. Instill in them that the way they think will determine the direction they go. Teach them about the power of thoughts. Teach them to choose their thoughts with kindness and to pay attention to what is being taught to them, what is being fed to them. To pay attention to their own thoughts. Pay attention to the words that they speak. This is what we should be teaching our children from the very beginning. I'm reminded that Socrates, who was born 400 years before Christ, and who believed that our most important task at hand was to nurture our soul, and yet he was put to death. And one of the reasons he was put to death was for corrupting the minds of the youth. You see, the wise men of the day, the sophists, they believed that the most important task at hand was success, and it didn't matter how you got there, as long as you were successful.
You know, my law career.
That sounds like current big day business to me. In big day business, the sign of success is money. It's not people, it's not making a difference, it's nothing but money. And I think that needs to change. Not to say money doesn't matter, because it does. But it shouldn't be the most important thing, and this is what we need to teach our children. We should all be giving more and taking less. The way that we think will determine the direction we go, and this should be part of the curriculum. Thank you.
Oh, my audience is still here.
Thank you.
You know my law career, you know what I'm all about.
Wait a minute, I got to turn this off. I can see it. I hope